Active Directory B2B and B2C services. And we're still waiting as we've got more people joining the conversation here. So we'll start in about 1 minute. Thank you. All right, I think we're going to get started. It looks like we've got a good number of people here. My name is Steve Brugger. I'm the president of Oxford Computer Group in the U.S., and I will be introducing our speakers for this week's webinar on Azure Active Directory B2B and B2C services. First up is Jose Rojas, who's a principal program manager in the Azure Active Directory B2C team, and I had the pleasure of sitting through one of Jose's presentations or training sessions several months ago when this was first launched, and it was exciting. He brought a couple of customers or customer stories along and showing us what they were doing with it, and since then we have jumped in with both feet and are working with a couple of other customers who are now deploying this. We also have Sarat Subramanian, and he is the principal program manager in the Azure Identity and Collaboration Fabric team, and he's going to be talking about the B2C side, B2B side of the services, and I'm also excited to have him with us this morning. And Jose, if you could go ahead and advance the slide, we'll do a couple of quick introductory pieces, and then we'll get rolling. First of all, an introduction to OCG. For 15 years, we've been focusing on identity and access management, enterprise mobility, and security. And that security in the past year or so has taken a big step forward from our perspective. And you'll see that in our service offerings that we're rolling out. We've been Partner of the Year for 7 times, including 3 years in a row, 2013, 14, and 15. And within the U.S., we have more than 700 enterprise projects. We also have additional large-scale enterprise projects in the UK, Netherlands, and Germany. There's another part of our organization that not everyone is aware of. We continually train on Microsoft technologies in the identity space, and we've trained over 6,000 people since we relaunched in 2002, primarily on FIM and MIM. Those are done as direct instructor-led engagements on site or on the web. And let's go ahead and advance to the next slide. And we always like to let people know what our upcoming webinars are. So we have a guide to MIM with the service pack. There has been a service pack released recently, and we wanted to give everyone a heads up as to what was included in that service pack. We are working very closely in the education space, and our presentation at the end of this month is an introduction to the EdFi Alliance, which is a data structure that layers on top of the security work that we do and allows students, staff, and teachers access to all kinds of aggregated education data. Conditional access has come on the radar big time for us, and On the 10th of November, we'll be doing a webinar on conditional access for mobile devices with Intune and another product called Lookout, which we're quite excited about. And let's go ahead and advance to the next slide. You can follow us on Twitter and you can follow us on LinkedIn. We've got a lot going on, so make sure you tag that. And the next slide, I think we'll be handing this off for okay. To give you an idea of the scale of things, 90% of the Fortune 500 companies use Microsoft Cloud. Azure AD directories are greater than 10 million users and more than 750 million accounts on Azure AD. Let's just go ahead and advance to the next slide.
I think at this point, I'll go ahead and jump in.
Okay, so I was waiting for your introductory slide. I didn't see it, so if this is yours, go ahead.
And you bet. No, thank you for that introduction, and really on behalf of my colleague Sarat and I, thank you for the opportunity to tell you a bit about a couple of interesting things we've been working on, and we're very excited to be landing with many customers across the globe. Just echoing the comments on the scale of Azure Active Directory, one major reason we want to start with this slide is because we are very much part of and built into the common platform that services Office 365, services Microsoft accounts across the world. All in, that's over 1 billion different identities across the world. And anytime you use Windows and you log in through Windows, or you log to Office 365, or you visit any Microsoft product, you are using this infrastructure. So needless to say, the scale is there. We keep a very, very watchful eye on the security and the reliability of this platform all in. And we have just really absolutely world-class talent on each one of these areas. And this is what we offer to you, both through our solution on AAD overall for your enterprise and employee needs, as well as, and here's the last bullet, the services we're going to talk to you about today, B2C and B2B. So as part of this family, something that had been missing from our offer was how would we help our Fortune 500 plus companies, and as well as small companies as well, deal with how they would interact with partners in a more fruitful way, in a more collaborative way, and how would they provide similar security and scalability to the consumer situations, that is, the customers. So if you're talking about Ford, for example, that would be their drivers. If you're talking about Costco, that would be their customers or shoppers, etc. And these are areas that were not typically enabled in the cloud, specifically the last one, consumers, but it's been catching up. So let's just start right away and calling out some quick differences. We're hoping that these differences come across to you as we go through our brief presentations. But we wanted to call them out up front and then again close again as kind of little hooks for you to keep in mind. Number one, what is it for? B2B collaboration is primarily for partner organizations and their collaborators. Right? These are folks who are very close in to the organization, with whom you might share both assets, resources, and applications. On the right for B2C, we're really talking about consumers and citizens. We think this distinction is pretty strong. Consumers and citizens are the ultimate users, typically, or ultimate customer, if you will. But and in these situations, you have very different needs, across as the consumers are acting for themselves, whereas the partners are acting as part of organizations. The manageability of the users, typically a consumer likes to self-serve. They sign in when they want to, they register when they want to, and they change their password when they need to. Whereas when it comes to the left with B2B, with B2B collaboration, you very often have the need to have restrictions, some allowances, do greater verification, allow the IT pros to manage those accounts. And lastly, discoverability. It is usual, but not always, but it's usual that in a employee directory and partner directory, people can find each other, very much so, to collaborate better. Whereas in the consumer situation, you can imagine that you would not want to be able to see every other Costco user or Ford driver or Real Madrid fan. That would probably be a little violation of privacy, or probably a big one. So bottom line, on the left, B2B collaboration typically for IT pros, typically for working with partner organizations that are close into you and your business. And on the right, We, on B2C, where I'm from, we working primarily for developers. We're working for your apps, the people who work on your websites, your mobile apps, etc. Those are the people we are more closely working with to help them enable identity through their applications. So hopefully this helps. Keep it in mind as we proceed. On to B2C. B2C, and this first part is very much like Azure AD, right? We scale to hundreds of millions of users per tenant. It's entirely cloud-based identity across the globe, providing services in several hemispheres and multiple data centers, upwards of 16 data centers at this point that we're present. We're developer focused, as I mentioned, and important to mention we're completely open standards. There is no correlation between Azure Active B2C and it needing to use an Azure AD directory or any Microsoft product, right? Everything standards based, so you could interact with on-prem applications, interact with Amazon AWS as that would you wish, applications in Azure, applications of any kind. This is exactly part of what we built, which is entirely open standards and allowing you to be faster to market with whatever technology your developers are used to. User experience is supreme, and I think the example I'll show you briefly will come across. But your users, you yourselves as consumers, are demanding with experiences. You're demanding with how quickly the screen loads. You're demanding with how clear the presentation is and how consistent it is with the experience in your mobile, in your tablet, in your websites. You as consumers, you know you are, and you quickly abandon websites that don't fulfill that. So we have to likely as well be as demanding in providing that capability to you so you can provide to your consumers and citizens, whatever the case might be. Lastly, we are immensely cost effective, and this will come across a little bit more come forward, but we've compared both to building your own alternative, which will end up being by definition substantially less secure or scalable than what Azure can deliver, and particularly for against the competition. This market of cloud identity service for consumers identity is a fairly new market. So it is a very high growth market as many more companies are understanding and the value of it. And we, number one, ask you to consider it. Number two, so we'd like you to choose us, but we think that us and a number of our competitors, we provide a better alternative overall that you should consider. Okay, so let's talk about a customer, and a kind of a fun customer. So Real Madrid is the largest football team, football club in the world, and they came to us with a number of issues that they were facing. They had a growing fan base, as you might know. They have hundreds of millions of fans across the globe. The increasing use of their apps, their websites, and the need for them to revamp those applications put them on a crossroads because they found themselves having issues with the identities that they did have, the logins, passwords, email addresses, phone numbers of their customers were in shambles. By that I mean they had low quality data because they hadn't verified that information, whereas in B2C now they can. They had issues with allowing some customers in one country to log into an application in another country because they had different stacks in terms of the identity code and different stacks in terms of the data. They had issues with, particular issues with scalability, right? Can you imagine on match night, the kind of volume that they get to their website? It's absolutely incredible. I showed you the huge scale we have in Azure Active Directory earlier. So when we launched with Real Madrid and their users started coming on board, there was a noticeable blip, right? By blip I mean not a negative thing, but I mean it was noticeable, right? In the great big soup of Microsoft identity, when Real Madrid came on board, they could tell, right? That when there was a game night, everybody knew because the flow of transactions just went up by amount that was noticeable by all the monitors. And another little anecdote, when Azure Active Directory, when they use our service and launch on the Apple App Store and the Google, the Android store, their application rose to the top and stayed there for a couple of weeks. So that's the kind of volume they command, and they needed that resolved. So as they did this with us, they were particularly demanding on branding. It had to look and feel exactly like their website and their experiences, and we delivered on that, and we delivered on that for you. And they were able to fully customize every aspect of the sign up and sign in without using code. And that's important because that means your developers can spend more time developing the meat of your applications versus worrying about exactly how's the identity going to work, right? They need not worry when they rely on a cloud-based service, when they rely on us. They delegate that responsibility and they delegate that complexity to Microsoft. And I'll show you in a demo briefly. And lastly, the CEO, CTO could, could go asleep at night secure that the customer data would be very well kept, that we would be responsible for any data breaches and not have happened whatsoever with them, obviously, and with scalability, right? They got all these things kind of virtually for free. Very happy with the implementation, and Microsoft now is rolling this particular solution to other football clubs and really other athletic clubs across the world. So to illustrate this a little further, why don't we go right into a quick demo, because I want to show you what it looks like. And let's start with how it looks like on the app. And allow me for this, I'm just going to show you, I think it'd be useful to just show you a quick little video on what happens when a user using Windows, the Windows Real Madrid application logs in for the first time to Real Madrid. And another feature will come across for you that you'll as well. So what you're looking at right now, hopefully you're looking at in your Windows, is the Windows app. This user for the first time goes to their app and chooses Google. And let me pause this for a second because I want to highlight something. So we're inside the Real Madrid application, the Real Madrid Windows application. It's a tablet, or we're looking at Windows 10 application. Obviously, they've spent a lot of time creating the application itself, but when the user chooses to register, that's when B2C takes over. So within their experience, we provide a service that delegates to us the tough stuff about identity, but we are part of their experience. So the user chose to log in with Google for the first time, and I'm going to push play again. So he provides his credentials. You've all experienced this, I bet, to many websites. So the user has the ability to use an existing identity through Google, could have chosen Facebook. The B2C, AD-B2C, notices that this is a new user, gets the permissions from the user, and subsequently Real Madrid wanted to ask some questions, right? And you can imagine how these questions are used for A, regulatory purposes, B, marketing purposes. They've just collected the email address that that user has over at Google, right? So the quality of that information just went up. They also got his complete name, and they also can get other information if the customer allows, such as how many other users of Real Madrid app also are friends of this user in Google or friends of this user in Facebook. So that all that information comes back as part of that authentication to the app, and B2C manages that. The user is accepting some notices. These notices get recorded in B2C as part of the record of this user, and those notices are now available to the marketing team, CRM team, and regulatory team for future uses. All this is captured by B2C for your use on your behalf. So as we continue, the user will just merely click a few things, in this case accept, and continues. And that's it. So that was the first time use experience for a user where they went to Real Madrid app, they chose Google, and they were able to quickly log in and move on to what they want to do. What Real Madrid have chosen for their perspective is that this user is always logged in, and Real Madrid has the ability to periodically refresh that information from Google or from Facebook if they would have chosen, and keep that updated, right? Get their freshest information, freshest profile picture, freshest list of friends, freshest email. Okay, let's stay on the Real Madrid theme. Let me show you very quickly what this looks at on the website. So this is live right now. Well, everything I'm showing you is live. I thought the video would be a little easier to present. This is the Real Madrid website, realmadrid.com in English, and we also support all the languages they support. So as you see here, their website supports this language. Likewise, when it passes to B2C, we handle that as well. So let's go ahead and log in. I'm still at the Real Madrid website. So notice what's going to happen as I push sign in, still on their website. The website will also delegate to B2C. And look at the redirect that's going to happen up here. When the user chooses to sign in, this is going to redirect to login to realmadrid.com. And this login is a particular domain that they selected that maps to Microsoft, right? By the way, you can see Microsoft here as well, but this is just something they could have just not chosen to choose here. They chose to keep it, so that the Microsoft would have never appeared, right? As you can see, the page looks just like their page, but it is really not served by them, right? So we need to be aware that it is our service providing this whole page on their behalf, and they've obviously designed it. And just do a quick login with that same account. Obviously, it's the same account across all the apps because it's a master repository. And let's do a quick login just to complete this right here. By the way, excuse me with that. By the way, you might, yep, go ahead. And that's it. So I just logged in. just to highlight that the experience is entirely theirs. We just have to give them the tools to design it. So there's no compromise in the experience, but B2C serves up with those benefits I called that earlier. I want to show you one more thing. So how is it that you and your developers leverage this? This is extremely important because the developers will adopt this if it's something that they can access easily and reliably. And when they go to add our service is an Azure Active Directory, and specifically Microsoft Azure portal.azure.com. And let's just very quickly show you what it looks like for the admin. And I just want to highlight two things here. One is how easy it is to add identity providers, right? Here's where a developer would look at the available identity providers and also be able to add other identity providers. In this case, for example, I could have added, just very quickly, let me show you. So currently, out-of-the-box supported, it's Microsoft account, Amazon, LinkedIn, Google, and Facebook. So you choose it, you provide the credentials that you have there, you as a developer have with them there, and that's all you have to do. The other thing I wanted to show you is how easy it is to see users and manage them. So very quickly, just do a super quick look at the ability for them to then see users, right? And obviously this could be 30, 30,000, 300,000, 30 million, right? And at some point, there are many different ways to manage users, not just through the portable or the programmatically through APIs. Okay, so this is a super quick view. I invite you and your developers to visit us and check it out. Everything's available for free to start. Up to 50,000 users. So there's a number of users, POCs you can do and begin to use it and experience it. Now, let me drive a couple quick points before I hand it over. Let's be close to this experiences here. So I want to highlight a couple quick points. Part of what makes B2C powerful is the idea that every application, when they delegate to B2C, these are your applications to the left, when they delegate to B2C, they have a choice to make, and they are under control as to which policy or which specific experience they provide to the customer. What this means to you is that you could have a repository of users, and you could have different applications, your applications, partner applications, different LOB applications, and each application invokes a different policy for sign up, for signing. It's still the same group of users, right? But each one of those experiences can look like the brand of that particular line of business. It could be that some particular applications require more information than others. It could be that you want to work with partners and allow them to your customers to log in with your partners, but you only want to reveal a few things about those customers. So you have the ability to control the information flow to each one of these applications, because each application has the right to use only specific policies. I know I'm covering this very quickly, but I just want to highlight that as a benefit as you deploy in large organizations, especially those who have multiple brands to manage, multiple types of users. It can still all be one service, one common login, one common SSO if that's what you like, but different applications provide different experiences. It could also be just the opposite. You want all the applications to have the same experience, and that's your choice. Pricing, just a quick note, more information on our website, but we have made this very competitive, we think very compelling. And to quickly show, what we've done here is we've taken the usage patterns of 5 different types of applications, and we've said, what would it cost to have 1 million users? So we normalize to 1 million. What would it cost to have 1 million users use our service with the different patterns of behavior that we have seen in specific opportunities? So this is a bank in the UK, and depending on how those users use their particular website, the bank's website, and they use it quite a bit. The authentications per day, I think it's in the order, per month, it's in the order of something like 6. So that's relatively heavy usage. This is what it would cost a year for 1 million users, right? Same bank, this time for the mobile app, used much more frequently, gives you this level of pricing for 1 million users. And so on, a parent application, e-commerce website. We even grabbed the publicly available information from LinkedIn and said, what would it cost per million to have those users in our system? And it boils down to here at the bottom between 6 for 13 cents, a user per year. That's not a typo. And of course, like always, all scenarios vary, so this is not a promise, this is an illustration of what's possible. Our biggest competition is build your own. And we ask you, please do not do that. Either choose us, choose another competent cloud identity provider. We have some good competitors out there, but do not try to build this yourself. The complexity keeps going up, the skill of the hackers keeps going up, and it's not likely that in each one of your enterprises you will be able to sustain that level of effort just for identity. Security and privacy risk are there. I think we all read the paper, we're aware of that. It will cost you more, it's particularly uptime, and because customers call, they want help now. We provide that for you. Quality of service could or could not be an issue depending on what's the high growth or the predictability of your uses. But if you're retail, Christmas is a tough time. If you're in sports, clearly a match time is a tough time, right? Every different business has their cycles, and you have to support it. So you have to build infrastructure to support the maximum, when in fact with us, you only pay for what you use. And lastly is the disparate use of the disparate systems provides complexity and does not provide you a unified view of customers. So in summary, we're super high scale. We support an ecosystem of apps, whether it be your apps, LOB apps, partner apps working with your users, and you are still under control of what each app gets to see and how it works and what's the look and feel. You get to have a unified view of every user and a unified experience, because each customer can now always use their Facebook ID to log into your apps if that's what you choose. And by the way, most customers are always logged into their Facebook account. So what it means really is that they don't even have to log into your applications. As soon as they hit your website, they're logged in instantly. That's why people love it so much. As you go to the right, the ability to collect user insights is a huge amount of value. Extensive logs on the behavior of each user, what device, what time of day, how they choose to log in, what are the apps they're using. This is all available to you through APIs. And lastly, protection. You can go to sleep at night and not worry. There are other things to worry about, but at least getting hacked and losing your customers' emails and identities will not be one of them. Great. Well, I hope that's helpful. I want to allow time for my partner, Sarat. So I'll pass it on to my great partner, Sarat, working on B2B. Take it away, Sarat.
Great. Well, thank you, Jose. I want to echo Jose's thanks. It's really great to be able to come in front of you and share some of the hard work that our teams have been doing, that we are super proud of. I'm going to talk about a different type of collaboration, something that a lot of large organizations contend with every day. In fact, 97% of our customers, Microsoft customers, are telling us that business-to-business collaboration is important. But there used to be a time several years ago that we used to think that two companies coming together and collaborate was a bit of a rarity, at least in the digital space, given the security and other concerns that companies might have depending on the industry that they are in. But we are finding that if you're a small company, you have a reason to collaborate with other companies because you're too small to get everything done that your business needs. And so it's important for you to develop these successful partnerships with other companies. And if you're a large enterprise, you have an area of expertise, but there are too many things to be done for your business to be successful. And so the best way for you to deliver super high value to your customers is by branching out, farming out some of that work to other partners and collaborators. So regardless of your size, regardless of your industry, regardless of what the product is that you're actually selling, it is very important for you as an enterprise to work with other enterprises. But it needs to happen in a safe and easy manner. And that's where business-to-business collaboration comes in. We are finding that in today's complex world, there are many different types of applications, many types of deployments, whether on-premises or not, whether Microsoft or not, and different types of devices, different types of platforms and code bases that your applications run on that are important to the business. And the act of connecting all of them together in a seamless way is very complex today. And what Azure Active Directory wants to do is to bring all of these together in a seamless manner with identity at the center of it, and all of the different Azure capabilities like identity protection, machine learning, intelligence about the user, information about the user habits across the different applications can come together and protect the core assets of the company, whether it is your own employees that are accessing these many types of applications, or if it's your customers using the B2C capabilities that Jose talked about, or if it's your partners, your business collaborators using the B2B capabilities that we will talk about now on the call. So the idea is that with Azure Active Directory, you can pull all of these disparate applications, deployments, devices, user types together in a secure manner using all of the intelligent capabilities that Azure Active Directory has built right into it. That's the goal of business-to-business collaboration. And now let me switch over and show you an example of an organization that has set up some such collab. This is my own tenancy that I use for demo purposes. Let's say it's called Woodgrove Online. In the Woodgrove context, I have needs where I work with disparate set of partners, companies, and individual users to come together and add value to my business. So let me show you in my user group inside my company how there are, what sort of users, what sort of guest users currently exist. So I have pre-established certain relationships with other organizations. In this case, this user, Sarat, is coming in with a Microsoft identity. If I click on Sarat, you see that they are an external user signing in with completely different credentials, not the Woodgrove online credentials, but an other organization's credentials. And the user exists in my directory as a guest user, and they are sourced from an external Azure Active Directory. So let's pause here and take a look at this user. He is not somebody whose credentials I manage. He is signing in with his own organization's credentials. He is marked as an external collaborator here so that certain policy knobs can apply. But he is visible to me just like other users in my organizations are, and I can delete this user. I can manage the user's access to certain applications. I can go and look at what their sign-in activity is. I can look at audit logs. Let me give you an example of a user. So this is telling me who in my organization interacted in what way with this user. I see that some licenses have been assigned to them. Some I have been managing some app assignments. I've been adding some roles and updating user properties. All of these are just visible to me automatically as part of the product without having to procure any other add-on component. Notice here also that I have users who are accessing the system with Gmail and live addresses. And I can go into these users as well, and I can look at what their profile information is. Here, as the profile information loads, you will see that this user is of a type guest and signing in with a Microsoft account. And I can block their sign-in if I so want. I can add some authentication profile information. We'll talk about that in just a second. And I can also update their work info, what their role is in my organization, and keep their profile updated. And of course, as always, I can go and see their sign-in activity. I can figure out the kind of applications that they have been trying to access. Note here that they are able to access a Salesforce application. So this is an external user who's using a Microsoft account to sign into my organization in a completely managed manner where I can set the policies, and is also able to access applications that my organization has set up that is useful for my business that have nothing to do with Microsoft. This is a Salesforce application that the user is accessing. If I want to add other collaborators to my organization, all I have to do is go and click on the Add button. I can type in a name of a user, and I can invite them at, in this case, let's say a Gmail address. And Notice here that I'm told that this user, Sam, with this Gmail address is going to be added as a guest collaborator in my organization. I can go and pre-configure some profile information for them, and I can assign them to certain groups if I want to, and I can just create them right here. I see a status of my inviting the user, and I will see that the invitation is successful. That is indeed, that is all I have to do in order to add an external collaborator in my organization. You notice here that we have successfully invited the user Sam. Now let me show you what happens when a user like Sarath with a Microsoft credential signs in. So I have my Microsoft domain join laptop here, and I'm accessing the My Apps dashboard. Notice here that Windows Integrated Auth kicks in. I don't have to click on any applications I'm a member of. As a guest, I'm a member of several tenants. I'm going to choose the Woodgrove tenancy on the right as the tenant on which I want to land. Notice that I did not have to sign in. There was no username and password involved. And here I am, and I can access the Salesforce application that I was given access to, again, with single sign-on. I did not have to type in another credential, and here is the Salesforce application. Now, notice that, and I'm going to sign out here for just a second. Let's wait for the sign out to complete. And I want to show how it is possible for the Woodgrove administrator to protect access to the Salesforce application if so desired. So I'm going to jump into the app management experience here, and this is the Salesforce application in the Woodgrove tenancy that I'm managing. If I go to configure the access of the application, I can see that the multi-factor authentication and location-based access rules is currently turned off. I can turn it on to make sure that all the users require multi-factor authentication as they sign into the application, and I hit save here. Great. So now let's look at what the experience looks like when Sarath accesses the Salesforce application on the exact same tenancy. Sarath signs in to using domain credentials to the Woodgrove application, switches over to the Woodgrove tenancy here. Let's wait for the login to complete, and clicks on the Salesforce application. And I am prompted for multi-factor auth credentials on my phone. Click on that and I'm able to sign in super easily to Salesforce. So it is possible for a user to set multi-factor authentication. I was not able to show you my phone on which I got the multi-factor auth prompt, but a user can, it is possible for us to enable access using multi-factor auth on an application for a B2B user. Notice that I can have access to audits and other information. I can go to user settings and I can specify whether which users in my organization can collaborate and invite guests, and whether collaborators can invite other collaborators, and whether guests should have a restricted access to the directory, which means that by default, guests do not have the permission to do certain things like browse the global address list and look at other users in the organization if I choose not to give them that permission. So let's switch over to how some of these applications are used in the context of our customers out there. We have been deploying business-to-business capabilities with several of our customers. A good example of this is Kodak Alaris that has 3,000 and growing partners that come together to make their business successful. And imagine the scale of the configuration and actions that need to be performed in order for all of these users to come and use their identities in a safe and secure manner to access Kodak Alaris resources. just the management nightmare, the lifecycle management and the password management and security, and it's just a incredibly hard proposition for Kodak Alaris to be able to do without support from the Azure Active Directory identity team. And what we have been doing with them is to enable business-to-business collaboration, where Kodak Alaris uses the APIs that allow them to invite partners to come in with external credentials and also manage their lifecycle in an automated manner. And they can hook in workflows that are that manage the user's entry and exit from the Kodak Alaris resources in a seamless manner. And this has been a super effective way for them to manage their complex matrix of relationships in a cost-effective manner without needing to purchase any other product other than Azure Active Directory that connects their systems together. And of course, once the users are in Azure Active Directory, all of the Microsoft services that are important to them, SharePoint, Groups, and all of the other applications just light up using B2B, and also allow them to connect other third-party SaaS applications to enable these experiences, collaborative experiences. But that's not alone. That's not all. Microsoft itself has an immense partner network. We have had partners for several decades now with whom we work, and the Microsoft organization is also deploying the business-to-business capability to manage these complex organizations and their workflows. And we generally have the principle of trying out complex scenarios with the Microsoft IT group, because we find that the security requirements that we have within the organizations are second to none. We always have to watch for the intellectual property within Microsoft to be safe and secure, and the ability to manage users and identities in a very very easy but comprehensive manner. And at the same time, we have to produce experiences that the users within Microsoft, the employees and partners, find that their productivity is enhanced by the set of capabilities that we produce, and any amount of friction that is introduced in the collaborative process is something that the users are very sensitive to. So Microsoft forces us to be both a secure and a usable solution, and we try out a lot of the B2B capabilities with our Microsoft group in-house. We spoke about a few patterns before, which is about adding an individual user, and a lot of our customers have been asking for the user pattern as a primary way in which ad hoc collaboration within the organization happens. But we also realize that there are several companies that actually want their partners to manage which users have access to their resources, but just want to highlight the groups and the roles in the other organization that they want to give access to. For example, Woodgrove might want to work with the real estate litigation department at the Litware & Associates law firm. They may not particularly have an opinion on which user in the Litware & Associates litigation department has access to their resources. It's up to the law firm to manage that. But they just want to indicate that that group has access to certain resources within the bounds of policy as dictated by Woodgrove. And this is a pattern that we are in the process of designing out, and you'll see that it's coming out soon. In addition to that, a lot of our customers have been asking us for ability to customize the B2B collaboration experiences. Everybody has different needs. Their businesses require different sets of policies and customization. But the one thing that is coming out as the most important thing for our customers is an API that allows the customer to write applications and scripts that manages the provisioning and the deprovisioning and maintenance of a B2B relationship. The good news is that we announced just a couple of weeks ago the invitation APIs in beta. Using these invitation APIs, you can create, this is an example of a JSON script that you can run against the Microsoft Graph APIs that allow you to specify which user you want to invite, including their display name, their email address, and whether you want to send a notification to them or pick them from the other directory. You can also manage what the language is of the email, and if you want somebody in your organization to be carbon copied so they are aware that the invitation is happening, you can customize the message body and also get back and specify a redirect URL. When you supply this JSON payload to the invitation method of the Microsoft Graph, your application will get back a URL that can then be used to accept the invitation. You can choose to either send an invitation message through us automatically, in which case we'll pre-package an email with the right URL in it and send it to this address, or if you specify that send invitation message is false, you can get back the URL, package it in an email that you can completely control, brand it in a way that your organization wants to brand it, include header and footer and text that you want to do, and then send it out to this email address. That collaborator can then click on the invitation URL, sign in, and get access to resources that you have specified. And you can pre-provision the applications that they have access to. As soon as you add a user, even a pending user, you can go and add them to certain applications and groups ahead of time, so that all the user has to do is click on an application and they can come in and have access to resources that you have pre-decided for them. Let's take a look at a couple of things that we also want to introduce in the future. One of the things that we want to do is every external collaborator needs to be manageable on par with internal users. We are also introducing this notion of role-based invitation management, where it is possible for an organization to specify a specific role, a guest inviter role in your organization, so that only when a user belongs to that role is he able to generate invitations. And you can have fine-grained control of who can do that and to which applications. In addition, a lot of the capabilities in Azure Active Directory that you've heard of, like conditional access and intelligent identity protection and the machine learning capabilities, and in the future Azure App Proxy, all of those things we are threading the B2B scenarios through all of those, so those capabilities are accessible to you automatically. One of the other things that we are doing, we are in the process of planning and we'll announce when it's ready, is the ability to manage intelligently the access of the collaborators that you have added to the directory. You can specify certain groups and applications as requiring access review in a periodic manner. You can identify users in your organization that are responsible for the access review. They get notified in time, a project is run for the access review, and then they are able to manage access to these collaborators in the context of your organization. So this is the set of capabilities that are in flight, and you can, if you have an Azure Active Directory premium tenancy, you can actually validate them today. And we spoke about the ability for two businesses to work together. So just as a recap of what you have seen on this talk so far, we started off by talking about the Azure Active Directory business to consumer capabilities, which is about developers developing applications that are consumer and citizen facing, that allow consumers to sign in with an identity of their choice, manage their relationship with the company, and ensure their privacy in the context of that application. So the example that you saw here was the Real Madrid application. The next part of the talk was about businesses collaborating together. In this case, the relationship is more formal. These are two companies that have a relationship with each other that are doing work to address a certain consumer base. And in this case, you want that relationship life cycle to be something that is controlled by the organization that is establishing the relationship. You want the ability to create, maintain, and dissolve this relationship. It doesn't matter who the users are, they are acting on behalf of your partners, and you have other capabilities like email verification, access reviews, and other complex management and policy capabilities that come in and protect this relationship. So these are the two capabilities, and the examples for these that we saw today are Kodak Alaris and Microsoft IT working with these partners. So with that, I want to turn it over to Steve to moderate any questions that you might have for Jose and me.
Actually, we just had one pop up on the screen. It's for you, Surat. And
Yeah.
mentioned earlier that with B2B you can allow collaborations to invite other collaborators. Is this feature granular?
Yes, so I will take that question to mean granular in different, in various pivots. Granular in terms of the applications that the user can access, granular in terms of which user can access a specific application and enable you know, access it based on the policies that I set. So it's granular on all of these pivots. It is possible for you to invite a specific collaborator into Azure Active Directory and give them access to nothing other than a particular SharePoint site collection. So that is possible. It is also granular in terms of you can be working with a specific company, but not all the users in that company have access to your corporate resources, and so you can actually pick specific users in that organization to give them access. And if there's another pivot of granularity that I'm missing, I'd love to hear about it.
Okay. We just had another question come in the window. I'm not sure we'll be able to answer this one. It's a question about the Graph API throwing an error. You might want to read that one in the window, Surat.
I see. I am trying to get to it. Yeah, you mentioned B2B collaboration, but collaboration is granular. The next is link is throwing an error. I see. So the link is not working. Why don't I send Steve? I'll send you the link to the article itself, and then we can publish that on this call, to that entity series call.
Great. And then a clarification on their earlier question from Marcus about the granularity.
Great. So that's a great question. Yes, it is possible for enabling partners to invite other partners, and at the same time you can also control it in a way that your partners cannot invite other partners, and only members in your organization can invite them. And the next question I see here is, how do we require multi-factor auth on partners? So there are the example that I showed you here is one a case where the Woodgrove tenancy delegated multi-factor authentication to the Microsoft.com organization, in which, in other words, Woodgrove requires their Salesforce application to be accessed after using multi-factor authentication, but is able to trust their partner Microsoft to provide the MFA. So if you didn't come in to with MFA from Microsoft, then you would not be allowed access. You will be bounced back, and you'd have to sign in with multi-factor authentication. But it is possible for Microsoft to manage that. But there are other patterns that we will be introducing, which is when the partner organization does not have the capability of supplying multi-factor auth, that the host organization, in this case Woodgrove, will be able to step in and then step up authentication, the strength of authentication as needed. So in that case, we have both patterns where you would require your app. Your app can only be accessed with MFA, and that MFA can be a partner MFA or it can be a host MFA, depending on the policy the organization sets.
Okay, yet another one for you about LDAP queries.
Can external application read B2B account information out of Azure through LDAP queries? For sure, you can read it through the graph queries. It is you can look at all of the user information is present is present in the Active Directory, and therefore, if your LDAP queries are able to provide you the user entity properties in a way that you want them, yes, you can read them. All of these guest users are essentially in Active Directory just like other users are, with special properties that indicate that these are guest collaborators.
And you see the question about Azure RMS. That's an intriguing one.
Yeah, so will the B2C and B2B enhancements be seamless with Azure RMS? Azure RMS has a number of scenarios. For example, they have scenarios like sending a protected document in email. They also have integration with SharePoint. We are working with the Azure RMS team to identify all the integration points and figuring out a way to make it work for B2B. And I let Jose jump in with his point of view on B2C. Jose, if you wanted to say something, maybe I should make you a presenter here.
I was muted.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is no, and this is a question about RMS, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so there is no overlap. That is, we do not work with RMS.
Mm-hmm. So the interesting thing we should think about, the questioner, and maybe we can find another opportunity to discuss this in detail, is what is the specific scenario where RMS is useful for a B2C type relationship? We can understand that in a B2B relationship, the RMS integration is super useful where two partners are working and it's about IP that the organization is producing. In the case of B2C, you want a lightweight relationship with the consumer that is coming to your organization's portal to get some value that you want to provide end users. And so in that case, it's not super clear what the role of RMS would be. Chris says, lightweight stakeholder management is the scenario. Chris, that's intriguing. We should, sorry, go ahead, Jose.
No, perhaps I was going to say something you are. You go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was going to say lightweight stakeholder management. That's intriguing. If it is a stakeholder who's coming in into your system and you want to collaborate with them without adding them to your Active Directory, I'm assuming that's the question. It is possible, and if it's just a document that you're sharing, it is possible to do that today. If the stakeholder has AAD or an MSA account, it just works. We are working to figure out how we can make this work for the stakeholder to use other social identities as well. If your question is about a site collection that you're sharing with the stakeholder, then again, that actually does involve invitation. So I guess the answer to your question will depend on exactly what the setup is that you're trying to go for.
Yeah, and I would only add that hopefully to those in the audience, this is a great question because it begins to kind of go at the point around where we see differentiation across the services and where we see that often one thing leads to the other by meaning like what at one moment it might seem lightweight in that type of relationship pretty soon becomes a little less lightweight and other demands are required of that relationship that the B2C service it really is not targeted for, and we would then highly encourage that type of situation that you consider B2B as being really the target service for that type of scenario. In fact, just one quick example, we are working with a company that has to protect a patent, and they want to expose those patents to very specific types of people, and they chose B2C, but they were not able to use RM. So they already had a different protection system they implemented. So there was some flexibility there, but in our environment, we really suggest that the use case in this scenario is more holistically covered within the B2B side.
Great.
More questions?
Great. So, more questions. There's one for you, Jose. Let me read it out to you. Can you publish all sorts of applications to B2C? Is this through virtual networks in Azure?
Yes, absolutely. So think of B2C as an open source in the cloud identity system, and that means is if that application can reach out to the internet through a redirect or through an API, then yes, it is available. That means any VMs, any on-prem, it could be an on-prem application that chooses to authenticate through us, and obviously anything in the web or mobile or any device that can access the internet can authenticate and work with B2C. Hopefully that answers the question.
Great, thank you, Jose. Next question here is for B2B. We currently authenticate all users through on-prem ADFS. Even client users have account on our on-prem AD infrastructure. Will authentication of B2B users only work when everyone authenticates to Azure AD directly? So that's a great question. We are our desire is to support all authentication patterns with B2B. For example, if your partner did have an Azure AD presence already, clearly that is something that we would support. And then we are also expanding our support for social IDs. In the case that the organization does have an on-prem presence but does not have a cloud presence but don't exist in your directory already, then we can also support those users by creating a just-in-time tenancy for them. Your specific question is common among a lot of large organizations that have been managing these partner users locally, that create an account for them, assign a password for them, perhaps maintain them in a separate forest inside your directory. We do have we also are going to be supporting syncing these users up into the cloud and marking them as external collaborators so that those partner credentials can be used. We will share some details with that with you. If you're interested, we can share it offline. But the thing to be noted there is a lot of customers that are in this boat want to eventually move to a model where they don't have to worry about managing these identities on their own, and yet being able to apply the right kind of policies. And if you want to reach out to us offline, we are happy to talk to you about both of those scenarios.
Oh, great. Those were awesome questions. Thanks to the audience, and thanks very much to Jose and Sarat for a great presentation. And we will see you back here for our next webinar in a couple of weeks. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.